Chris and Chris Talk Movies.
Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Chris Ferry, and of course, these are my co-hosts.
I'm Travis Scuba.
And I am Chris Huddleston.
And today we're very excited to be talking to you about a brand new movie that we are going to spoil. So if you haven't seen it, watch it.
Be forewarned.
Exactly, be warned. Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Put it in. I'm tired of people thinking I'm some kind of joke.
Your dad and I agreed it would be best if you just stop being who you are and doing the things you love.
My whole life, all I wanted.
I'm afraid we found your son at a polka party.
Is to make up new words to a song that already exists.
Oh, well, you should do that then. Ooh, my little hungry one, hungry one, open up a package of my banana.
Dude, I've got chills.
Every once in a great while, I can spot a talent that I know is the future of music. But first, we gotta find you a stage name. Al Yankovic. It's long, it's hard to pronounce. So I'm just gonna throw this out there. Weird Al Yankovic.
I love it.
Weird Al has taken the world by storm.
Do I know you?
Madonna, I was wondering if you were going to do a parody of my song, Like a Virgin.
I'm curious, is that song autobiographical?
Yes. Except for the fact that I've had a lot of sex.
Name me one creative genius that doesn't have a checkered past involving alcohol
That's the medicine.
and drugs.
I think Madonna's a bad influence on you.
What?
No offense.
I'm a train wreck. My parents wrote me off. I pushed away my band. You're all just a bunch of normals. I'm the weird one.
You gotta take care of yourself. I saw in you something special. An artist with something to give to the world.
In front of all the billions of people watching around the world right now, all I want to say is be as weird as you want to be. You will never find true happiness until you can truly accept who you are. Thank you.
Oh, Al, you can't smoke in here.
I totally deserve that.
Do you have a synopsis for us, Mr. Huddleston?
I do. And I wanted to first say that this is on the Roku channel.
Yep.
So it may be a little bit hard to find for people. I don't know if you have a Roku or you have a Roku TV, you're just going to have the channel on there automatically. If you don't, what did you guys do? Were you able to watch it on your TV or did you have to watch it on a computer?
I watched it, got the free app, and then,
Yeah.
signed up for the basic account, and then I watched on my phone.
Yeah, so you can get an app for iOS or Android. I don't know about outside of the US. I don't know in other countries how it works, but
That's what
it's free.
VPNs are for. You get a VPN.
Exactly. That's what VPNs are for. But you can watch it for free, but it just may be a little bit of work to get the app for it. So So Daniel, here's a synopsis from Rotten Tomatoes. Daniel Radcliffe is Weird Al Yankovic in the unexaggerated true story about the greatest musician and sex symbol of our time with Evan Rachel Wood and Rainn Wilson. And this was directed by Eric Appel or Eric Appel. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce his name. But so Travis, you're our guest tonight. So you go first. What did you think of this? And were you or are you a Weird Al fan?
When I was younger, definitely, I enjoyed it a lot, and then I kind of, got a little bit older and, moved on. I still enjoy going back to it. It was like a very particular pocket. I remember watching UHF back in the day and going like, I just like irreverent stuff, and he was just kind of weird, and I like that kind of. I was kind of a weird kid, so worked for me. I really liked it. I think it was very silly and fun, and I love that. He got to tell his own story in the style that that is appropriate for him, and it's kind of ridiculous. And I love that he chose someone else to be the narrator. And I think they chose a guy from, Transformers Optimus Prime kind of voice.
Yeah.
Like that too. And just the take on it was great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What did you think, Chris?
I enjoyed it. So as you said, Travis, I loved Weird Al as a kid. I think once you get to be about like 12 or 13, you kind of outgrow Weird Al. And so it's that same kind of humor. I thought it was great that they got Daniel Radcliffe, and I've watched some interviews with Weird Al and Daniel Radcliffe and Evan Rachel Wood, and so Weird Al said that Daniel Radcliffe was their first choice for the film, and Daniel Radcliffe said, they contacted him and he was like, "Oh, this sounds like a cool thing to do," but he was like, "I don't look anything like Weird Al, and I'm short and all this," but that was part of the joke. And I really love with him that he's a guy who made all this money in one of the biggest franchises ever, and now he just seems to be doing whatever he wants to do, which is great. He's really great in the role. Evan Rachel Wood is great as Madonna. I kind of expected from the trailer that maybe she would just be a bit part, but she's in a lot of the movie, and they do some really absurdist stuff with that. The director, so this was a short from several years ago on Funny or Die, and the same guy who directed that short directed the film, and this is his first feature, which I think is really impressive.
Yeah.
Because it looks great. It's shot really well. And the cameos are cool. I think it's neat that you
chock full of cameos.
Like Conan O'Brien is in this, and Jack Black, and I'm sure they just did this because they're either friends of Weird Al or they like Weird Al. So
Rainn Wilson, there's Dr. Demento.
Yeah.
And one of my favorites was Paul, the guy who does Gallagher.
Yeah, Paul F. Tompkins.
Paul F. Tompkins.
Yeah.
Gallagher. It's like a bitter great. Gallagher is the best. The one shot where he smashes, like at the end of the musical,
and
the button is him smashing a water bottle.
On Another One Rides the Bus is him.
Yeah.
So what did you think, Chris?
I agree with both of you. That pool scene that we were just talking about, to me, is the crown jewel. Oh, there's just so much to talk about. This is going to devolve into remember that part where the cool thing, that was awesome. But so his friends in high school convince him to sneak out one night. He's like, "Oh, my mom, puts me to bed," and then she checks in him. He's like, "Just use a hey boy." And he's like, "What?" He's like,
"What's a hey boy?
You don't know what a hey boy is?" And it's literally a little scarecrow made of hay that he puts in his bed.
And somehow the mom doesn't realize.
And they come walking into this Fred's house, and there's klezmer polka music playing, and half of the people are in lederhosen. And he's like, "You didn't tell me this was a polka party." Come on, man, live a little. And then he comes home and he's caught, and his dad comes out of his room holding. He's like, "Hey boy." It's so disgusting.
And there's a callback at the end.
Yeah.
My personal favorite of the whole thing was Thomas Lemon as the accordion salesman.
Yeah.
Who just gets brutally and unnecessarily beaten in the scene.
I could literally go scene by scene. Travis thought we were going to watch this one live, and in retrospect, that's what we should have done. We should have done a drunk cast where we just screened this together live. Although we probably wouldn't have been able to hang that on YouTube because it's brand new. Roku wouldn't have let that fly.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. The dad in this, I don't know if you guys recognized him or not. I don't know if you ever watched this show, but he was from The Adventures of Pete and Pete on Nickelodeon. Did you ever watch that show?
No, I never watched that.
Oh, okay. So he was, I forget what the character's name was, but he was the strongest man in the world. So that was kind of neat. But it was funny. One of the things that was really funny to me, and I don't know if it was meant to be funny or not, but you had the dad who was totally against him being a musician and didn't want him to play the accordion and everything. But basically everybody else that he encounters is super encouraging. Like he has his roommates in college, and they're just these kind of bro guys or whatever. They're like, sure, if you want to make parody, that sounds awesome. And then they wind up being in his band.
Yeah.
That nobody's ever like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? You know,
he's in a biker bar playing solo, and he does I Love Rocky Road. And the other guys just run on stage and pick up the instruments and start backing him. And he's like, I didn't know you guys. It just never seemed important. never seemed important to bring up before now.
Patton Oswalt's out in the audience, like jeering as a biker. You're like, all right, that's funny.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be in it. That's great.
Yeah.
So I think he had an impact on a lot of comedians. Like we were all like 10 or 11 watching it. It was like so. It was what, in a way, Saturday Night Live, I guess, was for our parents, like the irreverence of that. And like, I think we grifted on like a little Monty Python overlap. But Weird Al was sort of like, you know, in the 80s was like really the foundation of that, and Mad Magazine. It was all about, you know, quirky, weird kind of.
It is absurd. It's absurdism. It's ridiculous. One of my other favorite things is in the movie. So he writes Fat, right, which is a parody of Michael Jackson's Bad, but in the film, it's his first foray in writing completely original.
It was Eat It.
I'm Bad.
I think.
It's Eat It. Yeah. So he's like, so he writes Eat It. That's topping the charts, and then he's furious that Michael Jackson parodies him by doing
and the jacket and everything.
Exactly. And he keeps being like, it's a completely original non-parody song that I wrote from the ground up with no influence from anyone else.
Yeah.
And then Michael Jackson. So I'm like, in this universe, does Michael Jackson just not exist? Because that's funny.
Yeah.
But then he's like, in the subsequent scene, he's furious. He's like, I can't believe Michael Jackson would do this to me.
Well, and they bring it up to him, and he's like, Michael Jackson, the kid from the Jackson 5?
Yeah.
It's like he barely knows.
Yeah, he's done a few solo things. What?
Really heard of him. Oh, it's a treat.
One thing I wonder, so I don't think that you definitely don't have to be a Weird Al fan, I think, to enjoy this. And I think even people that don't really know a lot about Weird Al would find this funny. But I wonder if some of the, you know, because it's so, you know, we get into, he meets Madonna and has this relationship with Madonna, and she's this really bad influence, and he becomes an alcoholic and all this.
She's kind of like the Yoko
stuff.
Ono of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he's in one interview that I saw, he said he met Madonna once in like 1985 for like 45 seconds. And that's the extent of any dealings that he's ever had with Madonna. And so, and also, you know, part of the joke is he's this really, in real life, this kind of clean cut guy he's a vegetarian. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs. He says he's, you know, even being in the music business, he's been around marijuana his entire life and has never tried it once. And so, you know, and the movie does not let you know that. It's just, so I wonder how that plays with people who don't really know what his real persona is.
Right.
That, you know,
I love when he's having the meltdown on stage and the band just starts doing Jim Morrison music, and he's like shirtless, like having a meltdown. They like make it like sort of expressionist art at the end.
That was great.
Good. I love in the beginning too. We meet him as a child, and we find out that he sort of has a dream to be a musician, but that his parents are opposed to it. And then we cut outside, and it's sort of the sun is going down on the suburban neighborhood of the house where he grew up, and this sort of heartbreaking, the Oscar bait title music comes in, and I had to pause it because I was laughing so hard. This movie is absolutely ridiculously silly, and everybody does a beautiful job of playing it straight. Like they really all commit to it, and it never feels like too much or too little. It feels spot on tone wise all the way through. And sometimes it can be hard to do that when the material is this silly. You know, you all have to be living in the same universe, and I think they really pulled that off. And it's tricky because they revisit like every trope of every sort of you know, docu-pic, whatever it is. It's dramatized, like the music, the reflective moments, the like moments of like all of the tropes are in there, and they take the silly idea and they absolutely play it with utter seriousness, and that's what makes it funny. Yeah.
There's no winking, like, you know.
And
No.
it's effective. I was having this conversation with Travis a little bit earlier, but even though it's silly, and even though the movie itself is a parody of other movies, it still gets you.
Yeah.
Like when he's at the polka party,
Yeah.
he sort of ends up in the middle of the circle, and somebody's like, "Look what I got," and they bring out an accordion, and he looks stricken with panic because
Right.
he has senses where this is going to go. And they're like, "Come on, Al, you like accordion, right? You play something." And he's like, "No, I couldn't. I didn't."
Yeah.
You know, and they start like, they start doing the chicken dance. They're making fun of him as a chicken. He's like, "All right, fine." He puts it on and he shreds on the accordion. And there's that breathless moment when he finishes, and then the whole crowd goes, "Yeah."
Yeah.
You feel it. You're just like, "Oh man, that's awesome."
I just love the idea of polka bullying. They're like bullying.
Try it.
Come on, man. Peer pressure.
Peer pressuring into the polka. And that
the
actor that they had when it was like the high school Weird Al, it was amazing how much he sounded like Daniel Radcliffe.
Yes.
So all of the performances in this are really great.
Did he sing all the stuff? Was that Radcliffe?
So that was Weird Al, and that was another thing that I saw in one of the interviews. So he re-recorded a bunch of the songs for the movie, and that was another thing that they said was a gag, was that, it clearly was not him singing, that it was Weird Al's voice, and they I guess in a lot of the music biopics, it's like obvious that the person isn't the one singing, that they're using a record. So they thought that was funny, to have it, they didn't even attempt to have him try to do any of the singing in it. Now he did actually play the accordion, but which he said, he learned it well enough to look okay on screen, but he said those were the only notes that he got from Weird Al. He was not pumping the thing enough. He wasn't being like aggressive enough with that. And he said that was like the only note that he got from him. Nothing about appearance or anything like that.
Or his acting. It's like,
or his acting or anything. But he said that was the thing he was really, because he's playing they said on set that they referred to him as Weird Al, and then the actual Weird Al was there pretty much every day, and they called him Real Al on the set.
Yeah, it was fun. That's one of those movies that I watched and I thought, man, that would have been fun to make. That would have been so much fun to be there as a part of that, because it's so silly.
So much talent. Who is the mom? I don't recognize who she is. She's familiar, but I don't recognize her.
Yeah, she's been in a lot of things.
I guess I could look.
You guys talk, and I'll look her up.
Oh, you look her up.
I wonder, do you think we'd get away if I pull up the original short? How long is it?
I don't know.
I think, can we get away with that, do you think, on YouTube, or are they going to make a snippet out?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you go in and say you're doing a critique or whatever.
Fair use.
I mean,
let me see if I can find it. I have never watched it. So it's Al Yankovic movie
short. Let's see.
I just think it'd be kind of fun to put a little something in here.
It's in 2013. Yeah, that's it.
Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Yeah, it's like a 2-minute and 44-second piece.
And that looks like it's got Madonna and everything else in it too. Let me, if I can pull this thing up here, I'm going to share my screen. I just don't want, if there's an ad, I don't want to.
Yeah, and sure enough, there is.
All right, I'm going to pause it as soon as it starts, and then I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to look at this.
No, that's still him doing it.
Ryan Reynolds. Come on, YouTube.
Like so much. You can skip it now. Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay, pause it.
All right.
You got to unmute it though.
Yeah, I will. Shall I share my screen?
Sure.
Are you able to see it?
Yeah.
Cool. Here we go.
You don't know if it's like Kenny G at this point.
Your mother found these. I told you to get rid of this film. Basically, boy is weird.
I know he's weird.
By changing the lyrics.
Oh, they have Patton Oswalt for him.
You to change the world. Nobody wants to hear a parody song when they can hear the real thing for the same price. 2 words. Coming to stage next, this guy's the first timer. Weird Al Yankovic. You guys are ready for this.
I think you're going to parody one of his songs.
Maybe.
I'm like,
Here. Aren't you? Then why don't you just get out of here? I need to get out of here. You need to get out of here. I'm the weird one. I'm the weird one.
That's Jesse, right? From
Chase, baby.
Weird Al Yankovic was arrested earlier tonight in Miami for lewd behavior.
He was. I wanted to tell you that.
I recognize that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's from the Breakfast Club. No.
Office Space.
I hope there's a cast list at the end. Aaron Paul, Olivia Wilde, Gary Cole. That's who it is.
Cole.
Yeah.
That is funny. And it was Eric Appel who directed the thing.
Yeah.
Oh. Look at
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I like the movie better.
Yeah.
I think the movie's better than that, but it is almost the same exact architecture.
Yeah.
Like you can see how somebody's like, that short you made, I want to make that into a feature. It's like, just make it into a feature. Yeah, make that movie.
Yeah. A lot of the there's a lot of the tropes is what I love. There's always it's like The Rose. Remember Bette Midler in The Rose? It's basically, that was the first one I saw. Or I guess what was the one with Bradley Cooper they remade? The Star is Born.
Star is Born.
It's kind of one of the early ones. So,
and one plot line that we haven't talked about is that they completely diverge from the typical biopic thing is Madonna. They kill who's the drug lord that they kill?
Oh yeah, Pablo Escobar. It's
and
really
then Madonna takes over his business.
It's hard to imagine Madonna getting upset about.
Has she made any comment?
I don't know at all. I'm just saying it's like he didn't. It wasn't something he cleared with her. He just started, making the movie. But it's so silly, and nobody would watch this and think that this was real because it's just bonkers absurd.
Now, Evan Rachel Wood has said that she hasn't spoken with her, but she said that she thinks that Madonna would like it. And they actually, he did a parody of Like a Virgin, which was Like a Surgeon.
Yeah.
And from what I've read, she actually contacted him. There's been some cases where like Coolio famously, and they kind of joke about that in this film. He was mad. One
great shot of that where they're like panning the audience as he does it, and Coolio's
and he's just mad there. But they said that Madonna actually contacted his people or whatever at one point and said that she would like him to do a parody, and so back then had his blessing. And he said the thing about they joke about the Yankovic bump, where it's like when he parodies people's songs, then they get a bump. And he said that he did a spoof of "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and not Madonna, but Nirvana's record company contacted him and said that they sold like an extra million albums because of that spoof.
Wow!
So that's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. I had a thought, and I had a thought that springboarded off of that, and
Getting older.
I'm getting very old.
Now, spoiler alert at the end, and this was, I thought, was a great gag. He gets like, what is it? He gets like a lifetime achievement Grammy or something like that.
The guy.
And there's an assassin, one of Madonna's assassins is there and kills him. So he dies. And then she visits his grave at the very end, and she has a scar on
The
her
hand
face.
comes up. Yeah. I just love
Yeah,
the
hand comes.
the guy
Ferry,
like,
like-
totally doesn't fit in the front. Like he gets like a seat in the front row.
Yeah.
He's like this like 400-pound like biker with an enormous gun,
Huge rifle.
It's
Yeah.
like, nobody intervenes.
Oh, this was about Evan Rachel Wood, as I saw her on Fallon or something, and she sings. She can basically karaoke Madonna, and you wouldn't know it wasn't Madonna.
She looked great in that.
Yeah.
I just watched a bunch
then-
of Westworld, and I was like, "That's her."
And she said, so after they had wrapped, they had a party, and she got up and sang a Madonna song, as Madonna, having just played it. And the director was like, "Why didn't we have you?" Like, I had no idea. Why didn't we have you singing this? Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, and she's
very
outstanding. I
multi-talented.
mean, she's just gorgeous, and I mean, she's great as Madonna, as this like evil Madonna. You know?
Yeah.
Who played Pablo Escobar too? Like that guy was familiar.
I'm not
When
sure
they
what
go
the
down
actor's
there,
name
he's like
is.
very sort of charming. He's like way better looking than Pablo Escobar.
Yeah,
too,
right.
But
And at the end, he's just like, because she gets kidnapped, and there's this whole kind of Rambo like action sequence where he goes in to rescue her, and he's like,
complete
okay,
side quest.
let her go, and Pablo Escobar's like, you can leave anytime. I just thought you wanted to be at my party.
It's like a birthday cake, clearly from
Yeah.
Costco. It's like a Costco birthday cake.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's absolutely a side quest. It wasn't necessary, but it was wonderful to add that.
But it really works in
Yeah.
in this universe. So what do you guys think? Is there anything more to say about this one, you think? Or
I mean, we could keep talking about it, and I'll just be like, "Oh, remember that one part that was so fun?"
Yeah.
Like Al himself is in the movie. He plays like he did in the original spoof trailer we just played.
He plays one of the agents, right?
He plays the music agent, but in his sidekick in the film is
guy from Saturday Night Live, not Bill Hader, the other one.
what is his name?
The guy.
What is wrong with me?
The
guy who
keep
plays
talking, then I'll look him up.
Who does
the MacGruber?
MacGruber? What's that guy's name?
Anyway, he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And all he does is parrot Weird Al will be like, it doesn't make any sense. It makes no financial sense. He just keeps jumping in to underline everything else says. Yeah.
And then he comes back later when he's like vindicated. Weird Al does, and he just puts a cigarette out in his hand.
Yeah. He the pool party scene is so great because Wolfman Jack Black shows up, and it's Dr. Demento's pool party, and everybody's there. Salvador Dali is
I don't know
there.
who played that. That was great though.
Andy Warhol is there.
Andy Warhol.
Gallagher is there.
Conan O'Brien is Andy Warhol.
Fine is there. Pee Wee Herman's there. It's like this
Tiny Tim.
Yes, this who's who of all these weird people.
It's like a circus freak movie. At his pool party.
And he throws down the gauntlet. Jack Black, Wolfman Jack throws down the gauntlet, sort of being like, "Well, you're not, it's not real music what you do."
Yeah.
And
if it is real music,
get me my accordion. You don't have to do this. It's like, no, I want to.
Well,
he's there with the bass player
from
Queen.
Keeps trying to get everyone to recognize.
And so this is like, all right, well, you want to, okay. If this is, then play, parody.
Another One
Bites the Dust.
Yeah.
And everybody's sort of sneering and jeering, and so he does. And the premise is that he just makes it up on the spot.
Yeah.
And the guys they're doing all the little hand farts and that. Yeah. And everybody has a slide whistle.
Yeah, playing on a box. Yeah.
And it's just delightful. And at the end of it, so it's a slam dunk, right? And at the end of it, Jack Black, the music shifts, and Jack Black has this moment of being like, almost tears in the eyes. It's like, I don't know what to say. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
And
then the Queen guy.
And then security shows up and tases him and drags him away. It's
And then the very end of the
absolutely-
film, that's Gallagher finishing in the last
the
smashing a watermelon.
smashes a watermelon. Everybody goes crazy.
The Queen guy wants him to tour with them.
Yeah,
or
so
play
we're
on his
playing
album or
a
something
little, we're
like
playing a
that.
little gig at Wembley Stadium called Live Aid, and I would love it if you would come and perform that song.
Oh, yeah, that was it.
Oh, I'd love to. Psych. I just mock him, and then the cop tases, drags him away. Oh my god, it's so funny.
Yeah, it's I haven't seen anything sort of that enjoyably silly since like the first Anchorman.
Yeah,
Like just people having a
It's
good
that
time.
same exact kind of tone.
Yeah. So I mean, I for one I have recommended it to a number of people. I'm like, if you think Weird Al is interesting, even like this movie is so fun.
It's nice that to give a shout out to streaming is like the smaller, the independent film circuit is just taking a beating with all those superhero movies, and so the streamers have become the place that you could release things and let the artists do their thing without a bunch of executives coming in and mucking it up. Or like I'm trying to imagine that being released in theaters,
Right.
And it wouldn't be the same.
It's sort of the idea of like a movie like Ace Ventura that really made it big once it hit video. Like that was a big rental success.
Yeah.
That then spawned 2 sequels that did well in the theaters on the release, but the original Ace Ventura didn't do particularly well in theaters. And the streaming arena now feels to me like you can find smaller things that would never get greenlit for a theatrical release if it hinged on that.
Yeah.
But they go, let's give it a shot. I mean, it'll probably find an audience, and if it finds a really big audience, Stranger Things will spawn 3 more seasons of it.
Right.
And if it doesn't, that's part of the thing,
Still in the catalog.
So I like that. I agree. I like that it has resulted in a much broader field of original content. And I don't like all of it, but you're not going to like all of it,
Well, something very similar in tone to this is the Tenacious D movie that came out about 15 years or so ago.
Yeah.
And that kind of famously bombed. And so you can't really imagine, like you said, something like this getting into a theater, but it's gotten a lot of buzz just online, and they've promoted it pretty well. The budget I just checked was $12 million. So
everybody wanted to be in it. No one got their fee or their quote. I guarantee it. But it's chock full of stars.
Yeah, and it's really fun, and everybody, it's very, very well done.
Yeah, it's fun to see people work on projects that are not about career moves or getting your quote up, but just like, this is the love, the art of the game.
It's fun to watch everybody on screen having so much fun doing it.
Yeah.
It's infectious. I think that's one of the reasons why it's so successful. And it's not too long either. Yeah. It's not a huge commitment. It's an hour and a half.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So it's a
something like that. Yeah.
But it doesn't get lost in the woods. It doesn't bog down. It's like, you didn't need that whole plot line,
Yeah.
And adding the Pablo Escobar stuff in doesn't feel like padding.
Yeah.
You have to take it somewhere. You have to keep escalating.
Well, they have to heighten it, but they also get to resolve a threat.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they do that pretty expediently, and it never stops being fun. And unreservedly recommend.
Yeah.
For sure. I would agree. Yeah. It's you like this kind of absurdist humor. It's very silly. It's, another thing famously with Weird Al is he's a clean comic. There's not any profanity in anything that he does. So this is, you can watch this with your kids, and, there's not really anything, maybe a little bit like the scenes with him and Madonna, but even that's not explicit or anything,
Right.
It's all.
I can't remember. I remember like being around some people that were pretty religious, and they just didn't like it. They felt like somehow that was wrong. And I'm like, how could you be upset about this? The cleanest, most fun ever. And I guess they don't like anything that isn't like straight and clear.
It's silly.
Yeah. Now get back to planting.
Like the movie or just his songs?
Just him in general.
Just
like,
the whole.
like they would
okay.
take the album from them, kind of thing, and they'd come over to my house and listen to it. I'm like, what is wrong with your parents?
I mean, this is definitely not my parents' kind of humor. I mean, my parents would think this is really, really dumb, you know.
Yeah.
It is really, really dumb, but it's fun.
It captures that
but
Mad
yeah,
magazine though. Remember Mad? Like,
Yep.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
What was the guy, Don Martin, who would like did all those like
Mhm.
characters with their feet flopped over?
Yeah.
But it had the same sort of like it was like this, and the hair was like woo. It really brings, kind of took me back a little nostalgically too, because I was thinking about listening to like a Weird Al song and like being in the bookstore looking at all the comic books and then the latest Mad magazine and waiting for the next Mad magazine because it came off at Thursday, and like I got to get one of them because they'll sell out, and then reading those during school.
And they don't really in the movie really delve too deeply into his catalog. You know, they just kind of cover just a handful of the really big ones. And, you know, the thing that is interesting, so, you know, I got to thinking about like, you know, he did the Yoda song, you know,
Yoda,
yeah. And the thing about it is, you know, and on all of his albums, he had some original songs, and, you know, there's some good original songs in there and everything. And people say that, you know, he's toured. I think he's done like, I think they said well over 1,000 shows in his career, but people say he's really, really great live, you know, him and his band. And so I've always thought that would be fun to, I actually checked to see if he's touring anywhere, and he isn't right now, but you know, his shows are supposed to be really great.
If you think about, I mean, you get hung up on the fact that it's a parody, but if you think about the breadth of material that they do, the technical proficiency, is amazing. And then his albums tend to have a kind of a mashup of sort of top 10 songs that he hasn't done the full thing, that is a full-on polka thing, and it really highlights his virtuosity on the, you know, so it's the sort of polka / klezmer version of all of these hits.
I think it's klezmer.
Klezmer?
Yeah, I don't think there's a T in there.
Klezmer?
Klezmer music.
Klezmer music? All right, well, I apologize to all the klezmer people out there for
that would be
your music.
All Jewish people, just so you know.
Wow, all Jewish people.
Yeah, that's part of the culture. That's where klezmer comes from.
Ladies
German.
and gentlemen, I would like to apologize for my.
We apologize in advance. We might have to cut that part out.
Travis Guba, famous anti-Semite.
I was just talking to Kanye, so.
Oh boy.
So have you guys have you seen anything else? It's usually kind of at the end of the episodes we, you know, get into some other stuff a little bit. Have you guys seen anything else recently that was interesting or you enjoyed?
I haven't watched, you know, I just finished up the film festival up here, and I've been kind of wrapped up in that, and I don't think I have watched anything that we haven't already discussed. I haven't seen anything new. What have you been watching?
I watched this great short. It was called Taken In, available on Amazon Prime. If you look for Taken In, short, it was amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. It was part of the film festival we screened, and Travis directed it.
What?
So you should absolutely check that out.
Sure.
It's great. But you were just telling me about the documentary on
I was watching.
Netflix.
There's a documentary called Wild Wild Country, and it's about this sort of guru, sort of this Indian spiritualist, and he sort of rides all of the sort of Westerners looking for fulfillment and enlightenment, and creates like a monetary system within his ashram, and then it gets a little hot for him with the Indian government, so he takes all this money they've raised, and he tells one of the people, go find us a place to build the next thing, and they decide, well, it's got to be America. We won't deal with oppression there, and
right.
She goes
we won't deal with oppression there.
No,
yeah, and so she
here.
goes to North Central Oregon, in the middle of this like sleepy rancher, conservative, retired community of people.
I've seen the preview for this.
Yeah, they buy up all this land, and they literally have all these people that are specialists in engineering and work. They build like a city for their whole group, and they just sort of start it, and it's just like freedom and no responsibility, a lot of open, loose sex, and
it's kind of it's a cult.
Yeah,
but we took a hike this afternoon. He was telling me all about it. So it's absolutely it gets more and more bizarre. But this is true. This is a documentary, right?
Yeah,
or
it really happened. Real footage.
It's real footage.
They have
or
real
it's
footage.
based on it and they reshoot some of it.
They do modern interviews and they cut the modern interviews in there too. So yeah, it's really great. I'm thinking like how to write.
Sounds super interesting.
It's funny. So I would recommend that. And then I'm watching another The Vow, season 2, which is about Nexium, which was another cult. And it was in New York, and there's a whole bunch of them got indicted because they got into like sex trafficking and like a secret sect of the program that was just like all women, and they were like branding the leaders like initials on themselves, and they were all groomed to like be his sex partners. Just fascinating, like how manipulative that man is.
Wow.
Keith Raniere, he's in jail now. So
I'll go look him up.
Look him up, see if he's available. There's people like still going, think he's the greatest thing ever. What else have I watched? A lot of docs lately. Of course, the Dragon one, House of the Dragon.
Yeah, House of the Dragon completed.
And
were you guys happy with how that? I haven't watched it, but were you guys happy with how that finished up?
It was once you figured it out, I got into it because it was like there were like two main ladies that were named like Rhaenyra and like Rhaenyra or something, and I was like, who's because if they were on screen, I knew who we were talking about. But if someone referenced them off screen, it was like
Rhaenyra.
Yeah, I was like, is that the big one, the little one? Anyway.
I thought it was well done. There's a couple of time jumps in it, and the first one is very prominent after the first 3 episodes. And I think we've talked about this before. I think they replaced 2 of the central actors in it with older actors that do a good job and look plausible as older versions of but the chemistry those two had, particularly the sort of the Game of Thrones was very popular. Daenerys Targaryen was a very popular character in that season, and so it was smart of them to sort of start with this. She looks sort of like it. She's in a similar situation, right? To kind of anchor that to the former thing. And I thought the actor who played that role was absolutely dynamite.
Young actress?
Yeah, absolutely dynamite. And then when they replaced her, it wasn't that I think the other person they put in did a bad job. I just missed her the entire rest of the thing.
Yeah.
And I would have watched the whole season that just stuck with her. And they wanted to, I think they wanted to cover a certain family arc, and that spanned a lifetime, that spanned decades. So I understand the choice, but yeah, and it's good. I mean, it's not Game of Thrones. I think Game of Thrones.
Well, Game of Thrones had that magic of like the Walking Dead. Like for the first episode, you're like, this is a life or death major thing. And this one has dragons, which are magical, and we get them right away. But it doesn't have that same sort of thing looming in the background. I was never as interested in the politics and gamesmanship part of Game of Thrones. I was interested in like, when are the zombies coming? What are the supernatural elements of the children? And that interesting.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? What have you been watching?
So a couple of things. I've been watching Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix. Have you watched any of that?
Maybe we could check some of that out tonight.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch some of that tonight because I've been meaning to do it and I just haven't gotten to it.
You're gonna go in the murder basement?
We'll go in the murder basement.
In the murder basement. That's the perfect place to watch it.
I'll set up all my precious Victorian dolls all around you so they can watch you while you're watching the horror.
And slightly that metal door that's nondescript that has blood on it, just slightly open that.
Unlatch that and see if anything happens. And it'll be
it's an anthology where Guillermo del Toro is the Rod Serling like host, and he's just kind of collected directors that he likes, to do these different stories. And I think I've watched 4, and there's probably 8. My favorite one, the one that I would recommend you guys watch is I think it's called The Visitor. It has Peter Weller and Eric Andre and some other people that you recognize. And the director I think his name is Panos Cosmatos, who did Mandy, and I think the other movie he did is Beyond the Black Rainbow, which I think you've seen, Chris.
Yeah.
And it's that same kind of aesthetic where it's just this incredible production design and this crazy tech, synth music. But it's not as slow as those movies are because it's just a 45-minute episode. I would recommend for sure that you guys watch that one. It's I think you
When
would
you watch
you would
them out
enjoy
of
it.
sequence, they're just
Yeah, they're
standalone.
one-offs.
Right?
They're
It
one
doesn't-
off. It's like
it
it's like the
doesn't
Twilight
build-
Zone or Black
does
Mirror.
not
It's just
Yeah.
one off
Okay.
There's no
one-off
there's no
stories that don't have
serials.
anything to do with each other. So,
But sorry, go ahead.
oh, sorry, you go.
I was gonna say, what did you think of the first episode? Because I had beef with it. The one with the story.
I enjoyed it. My only real problem with it is there's some kind of not great CGI towards the end. So is this the one with the storage
unit
building
that he buys out?
Storage unit?
But my
Don't
issue,
spoil it because I haven't
my
seen
issue
it.
with it was that character was so
Froze.
like you know that something bad is going to happen to him, right? So are you there? You froze.
No, sometimes it comes back.
Oh, you're back?
There he is.
You back?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just had a little
We froze there for a second.
So my issue is that they tried to make do you know the actor's name? He was in like Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Oh yeah, he's in Oh Brother Where I don't, and he's in the
Buster Scruggs, the ballet with the Coen brothers.
And that guy's great,
He's great, but they added this layer where they tried to make him like sort of racist, and it was so ham-fisted. And then they added these scenes with his friend who works there, who's African American, and they got to talk about it a bit. But I'm like, why? It just added. It was like fluff, and it wasn't necessary, and it felt
that could have been cut for sure.
All of it could have been gone, and it would have been much more interesting.
It's Tim Blake Nelson is his name.
Thank you.
Yeah, so all that's it's really overall really top notch as far as the actors and everything in all of these episodes, and since it's different directors, the tone is some of them are funny and some are serious, and so none of them I would say so far that I've watched it I think were amazing or anything like that, but so what I've seen they've all been really well done. So
I think there's this issue also where we're trying to grab this format that existed as kids, The Outer Limits, Amazing Stories, Spielberg rebooted that one, and all of these things that were so groundbreaking in a way that I was so attracted to. And I'm like, was I just simpler as a kid and that was easier to go with? But it all seems very dated, all of this, when I watch it. There's something just missing from it. And I think that the current version is Black Mirror. Like that feels the same sort of that feels the same sort of like sense of wonderment that I had for Outer Limits or Tales from the Crypt.
Black Mirror is great.
Yeah.
These are definitely not at the level of Black Mirror, I wouldn't say. I think the thing that's missing from these is the so many of those anthologies from our youth and even before our youth, like Twilight Zone was the 60s, but we were watching all those as when we were a kid. None of these there's not a twist ending in them, which you had with the Twilight Zone and Tales from the Crypt and a lot of the Black Mirror episodes, so they're just kind of a short story, but not necessarily any twist. And I think that's maybe the thing that's missing from them,
see it coming. You see it coming and you're just like, well, how are we going to get there? I guess that's why I don't get as engaged. I'm kind of like allowed to drift back and go like, oh, this is okay, and go to the bathroom and come back. Did I miss anything? Not really, but here we go. Let's keep on. It's kind of fluff.
Well,
now the other thing that
it's good, but it's not Black Mirror. How about that?
Okay.
It's good, but not quite at that level. The other thing that I watched is Regal Cinemas over Halloween had they had the original Dawn of the Dead from 1978 in theaters.
The very first one was black and white?
No, the second one. So that's Night of the Living Dead is the black and white one. Dawn of the Dead is the one in the mall.
Yeah, it's very good.
And so the
remake is really good too, actually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the remake is fantastic.
I think we saw the remake up at the Magic Johnson Theater
with Sonny.
Yeah, it was Sonny. It was such a treat. It was a very engaged audience.
Midnight crowd. Largely African American. So we were sort of sticking. Not that anybody gave us any guff, but absolutely packed house, very vocal crowd. It was the best way to see that.
Just yelling at characters.
Because it's a good movie and it's scary.
Yeah.
But people would like, don't go in there. It's great.
Or it was in was it Tyrese that was in it? and he was helping the pregnant white girl, and someone was just like, "She's gonna get you killed."
I went to see the.
So you went to see the original.
Yeah.
So this was the original, and for whatever reason they post converted it into 3D, which was completely unnecessary. It looked, the print was great, because I'm sure it's probably some remastered. They probably remastered it for some new Blu-ray or something. But so it looked really, really great. The 3D was this kind of modern 3D where it's just depth. It's not really stuff flying out at you. There were a couple of scenes where there was broken glass and stuff like that. But so that was really cool because I had
let me grab
the
that
3D House of Pancakes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd never seen that one in the theater, so that was really cool. But the story that I was going to tell is I went to see the Dawn of the Dead remake that came out a few years ago, and it was like a Friday night. It was pretty much packed, and there were a group of teenage boys. I went with a friend of mine, and there were a group of teenage boys behind us, which normally maybe would have been annoying because they talked through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it was actually funny because they brought one of their friends. It was like a group of kids that I guess were into horror movies. And then they brought a friend who was not into horror movies. It was like they kind of dragged him along. And all through the film, it was like, why are they going in there? These people are so stupid. And he was like, I'm going to leave. And they were like, no, just stay. All through the film. And it was really, really hilarious because he was just terrified and like, I can't believe you guys brought me to this. You guys are such jerks. It was really great.
That was fun.
Yeah. But anyway, Dawn of the Dead, seeing it in the theater was cool. So
for next time, we had decided that we're going to do a December a Christmas movie, and we're going to do
Die Hard.
Krampus.
No, Die Hard.
You want to do Die Hard?
We could. I mean,
we can do Die Hard.
We can watch both.
Then you have the whole. Yeah, we can do both of them. I mean, then we have the whole debate about.
I haven't seen the Krampus either.
Okay.
No, I haven't either. So.
What's that on Netflix?
I don't need an excuse to watch Die Hard again. That's a great movie.
It is a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie.
People don't know.
I think so.
Now I have a machine gun too. Ho, ho, ho.
The great late Alan Rickman in his breakout role.
So great
in that.
He is so great. Hans Gruber.
Well, the reason
I made that movie. I mean,
yeah,
you have to have a villain that interesting to make, because Bruce Willis did a good job. The whole cast does a good job. You have to have a villain that stands up to that feels like you're not going to be able to beat this guy, and he is a slam dunk. It's just so great. Yeah, okay, so we'll do Die Hard and Krampus, and sure. I don't know, maybe it'll be a double feature, or maybe we'll split it up. I don't know. We figure this stuff out.
It's
later.
Also interesting. I keep going back to revisit things in our modern context to see if they hold up. And I was going to say on the plane, I told you this earlier. I wanted to watch American Beauty. Won an Oscar. Does not hold up.
Wow.
Like, it does not translate. And I'm like, I don't know if it's like the Creepy Town thing that came out about Kevin Spacey, or the fact that he like is really pursuing like a 17-year-old girl, and it's like, this is really uncomfortable. So it doesn't hold up. Thanks, Sam Mendes.
I haven't watched back to it, but I remember really liking that when it first came out. Thinking, wow, that movie's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen it since watching it in the theater. Maybe I watched it like on HBO or something.
And Chris Cooper's great
next year
too.
Yeah, I didn't even get to Chris Cooper. I like bailed at like a third in. I'm like,
wow,
like the one where the roses are falling off of her. I'm like, I am deeply uncomfortable with this. Maybe because I'm older and I try to identify with the characters. I'm like, this is not good. I can't. I'm like closer to. I'm older than he is in it. It's like when he's jerking off in the shower. He's like, I'm 43, and you're like, 43.
Oh my god.
I remember 43. Just 43.
Cool. So we're about a time here. So we're gonna watch in no particular order Die Hard and Krampus for our sort of holiday seasonal Christmassy stuff. We all recommend Weird Al Weird by Al. Yep.
Thumbs up. Where's it? Like here. You guys do a thumbs up.
Sure.
That might be copyrighted. I don't know, but
Chris and Chris Talk Movies at gmail.com. That's our handle. We're on the socials. Maybe you're watching us on YouTube. Maybe you're listening to us in your podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Like and subscribe. Just go ahead and smash that like and subscribe for me there.
Yeah. Smash it as hard as you can.
Yes. Don't hurt yourself, please.
No, not too hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, any last
I
thought?
just don't know like if you're using smash accordingly.
Oh. Everything I say is wrong.
I know.
Crush it. Destroy the like button.
My daughter has enlightened me on terms that I should no longer use, like thirsty. I didn't know what thirsty meant. I do now.
Usually when I feel thirsty, it's because I know there's a beer in the fridge. I'm gonna go.
Not the context for thirsty anymore. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, these kids and their new speak.
Yeah. And all mine's old now. That being said, hey y'all, I'm fitting a Dipset.
Okay. Whatever that meant.
So I'm getting ready to leave.
Okay.
I'm fitting a Dipset.
Once you figure out what it means, then it's not cool anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as I knew they changed it.
That must still be cool, then. No idea what you're talking about. All right. Well, from the
Alrighty.
Folks Network, we're gonna bid you farewell.
It's 5 o'clock. It's time for bed.
Okay. And the last thing I always say is we will talk to you all next week.